as you all know, there's a huge dispute going on between the US and the China. Basically, they're imposing tariffs on each other's imports and exports. And now, in this particular video, I'm going to decode why exactly this is happening and how Indian stock market is going to be affected from this particular tariffs that is being imposed on all these imports and exports, and in particularly which sector, which stock might be affected and are being affected in today's market. And just to give you guys a bit of an intro as to what has happened till now. Basically, before he became the president itself, Trump had announced that he will impose at least 10% tariff, that is tax, on all the Chinese imports, and that is going to take effect from Tuesday. And not only that, he also wanted to impose some sort of a tariff on Canada and Mexico as well, because Mexico themselves are, a lot of people are migrating. Illegal immigration problem has been happening from both Canada and Mexico, and he wants to put an end to that. And but today, as a result, at the end moment, he gave a 30-day pause for Canada and Mexico, but not for China. China is being imposed 10% tariff. That means everything that a US company might get from China, they'll have to pay extra 10%, right? So it's obviously no one will now prefer a Chinese raw material compared to they might go for some other countries. That is the main reason behind why Trump wanted to impose such a tariff restriction. Now, it could benefit some Indian companies, but at the end of the day, we'll also look into just in a couple of minutes I'll talk about how exactly this is going to affect all the different sectors. So now, as soon as the tariff was hit the markets, as soon as that, China actually came up and said, what, we are also going to levy some sort of a tariff on you. And as you can see over here, he has levied a 15% tax on coal and CNG, basically energies that are used in the US, and an extra 10% on crude oil. Now, as you can see, crude oil is actually being affected a bit less. So this is actually the main reason behind the negativity in the crude oil, the charts as well today. Right, and not only that, they're also living a lot on the auto sector, auto ancillary stocks, and farm equipments. So clearly, this is going to affect US as well. We'll have to wait and see how the whole thing will transpire, because both the countries are very interdependent. They cannot really just put more and more tariffs on each other, right? So now, and before that, I also want to talk about, obviously, we had the budget on February 1st, and we noticed a lot of good news, especially for salaried employees, middle class salaried employees. We saw a huge relief for them. And one of the key output of giving such a big relief to the middle class was, see, if people have more disposable income because they're paying less tax, that means they're willing to spend that money on something else, like something as basic as, maybe if I have more money, I could probably go out and buy more biscuits and more FMCG ish sort of stuff. For example, United Brewery, that's alcohol, or Bata sells slippers, right? If I had a lot of money, maybe I would go buy extra slippers and maybe drinks and whatnot. Basically, the consumer related stocks, meaning that more consuming will happen because people will have now more disposable income. And as a result of that, on the day of the budget, we had a huge surge in all the stocks, right? But now, like it happens all the time in the stock market, as soon as some news comes, everybody runs behind the stock, and after that, the hype calms down, and we notice a fall in all the stocks, basically a sell-off. Think of it this way, right? United Brewery down 2.9%, Bata India down 3%. Godrej Consumer, I think, had gone up about 7% on the day of the budget, is now about 1.7% down. So we see this is a usual trend that we see whenever almost any news comes out, right? Almost 90% of this time, these stocks go up, and then they stay there for 1 or 2 days, and then there will be a sell-off in almost all the stocks. So next off, coming back to the US and Mexico, the China tariff, one of the main sector that was being affected was the India's auto ancillary sector. What does it mean? Basically, companies that sell auto related stocks. For example, car ke liye someone might be selling some tires, or some sort of automotive part, right? And these stocks were under pressure because, see, if more tax is being imposed on Mexico, for example, a lot of Indian auto ancillary companies sell a lot of stuff to Mexico. I think it amounts to almost 4% of the total revenue that India exports comes from Mexico. Around $600 million worth of products are exchanged on a yearly basis. So clearly, the Mexico companies which are buying raw materials from India will actually sell their finished goods to US. Now, if US imposes more tax, that means all these companies which are in Mexico will go back to US itself. Now, it's clearly negative impact for Indian companies, because if a company moves back to US, there's no clear I mean, there's a lot of things at stake here. They might not purchase from India like the Mexican companies used to do. So this news had actually had a bit of a negative impact on the auto ancillary. But today, as soon as Trump said, no, I'm gonna give you guys a 30-day grace period for Canada and Mexico, we saw these auto ancillary stock like Sona, BLW, Precision Forgings up about 3.6%. Samvardhan Motherson, basically we call it a Motherson itself, right? So this was also up about 5.5%. Bharat Forge, one of the leading auto ancillary stocks out there, up about 2.8 to 3%, early morning itself. So clearly a bit of a positive news, but then it's just positive for about 30 days. We'll have to wait and see what Trump does, and then depending upon that, it'll clearly take an impact, because it's 4% of their annual revenue. That's 600 to 700 million dollars worth of revenue is at stake. So clearly stocks are reacting to that. So next up we have Poly Medicure. The share went up by 6% today because there's a vertical expansion. Now vertical expansion meaning, see, Polymedicure is a medical company, right? So let's say they go into business where they're opening up hospitals, or they're opening up blood testing or something of that sort. That's called vertical expansion. Like company which is performing in one sector will go to the other verticals of the company, right? Other verticals of their business. So clearly, because of this, apparently that revenue will grow up by 20% in the next 2 to 3 years. So it's a good news for the investors. So the stock is up about 6%. As you can see, it was on a bit of a downtrend for the last couple of months, I would say. Now, as soon as, I mean, ever since start of 2025, it was on a downtrend, but today with very huge volumes, we saw a big run up in Polymedicure. So next up we have Thomas Cook, which is down 12% today because the Q3 was absolutely terrible, down 40% to 50 crore. Net profit is down 40%, guys. They used to, I think, post somewhere close to, I suppose. So they used to post somewhere close to 2,000 crores worth of revenue every year, but now this is in this quarter it's only 1,893. Almost think of it as 1,900 crore. Even the revenue is down almost 160 crore. So clearly, on all fronts, net profit, revenue, everything is down for the quarter, and this Thomas Cook share itself has taken quite a bit of beating. If you can see, already was on a downtrend, had a bit of a run up on a Friday session because of the budget and quarter three results. Now clearly after the results were pretty bad, the stock is with very high volumes, it took a downtrend. So next up we have Bajaj Finance, M&M, and there are a lot of large cap and mid cap stocks which actually hit a 52-week high. That's really nice, because see, there are multiple good things happening for these stocks. First off, the budget was really nice, and then Canada Mexico tariff, which was actually planned, got postponed. So bit of a positivity in the market, I would say. Not a huge negative impact on major stocks.
If you're a trader following market calls and tips for day trading, use our tool RNT, Research and Trade. All you have to do is link RNT to your trading account, then just sit and relax. Turn trading into business at app.gwcindia.live. Check out description for more details.
Disclaimer: investments in the securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.